Guo, a spicy and non-spicy hot pot soup base that gives you the best of both worlds. Jiaoqiu always makes me hungry. Hello citizens, welcome to my Jiaoqiu assessment video. This will be a quick and concise video that will cover how he works, where he shines, and whether to pull for him. Disclaimer, footage in this video comes from the creator experience server and there might be changes on release, but if anything changes, I will update in the comments. A quick summary of his kit. Jiaoqiu is a fire nihility support that increases your team's damage via his Ashen Roast stacks. Each stack applies a % vulnerability debuff to the enemy. Vulnerability differs from bonus damage, and it's a strong debuff as it's a rare multiplier, and in total he can inflict 5 stacks for a 35% true damage increase. Jiaoqiu's ultimate tosses everyone into a giant yuanyang hot pot and debuffs them with an extra 15% ultimate vulnerability. His hot pot also inflicts Ashen Roast stacks whenever the enemy takes a turn. It's kind of like they're becoming more cooked each time they take a turn. This can only proc once per enemy turn, and it's limited to 6 total instances. With the help of his ultimate and talent, you can generally keep all enemies at the max 5 stacks pretty easily. To ensure his debuffs, Jiaoqiu wants around 140% EHR, and since he can convert EHR to attack, you usually just build him focusing on EHR and speed. In combat, Jiaoqiu's rotation is pretty simple, and he can generally 3-turn ulti with skill basic. So where does Jiaoqiu shine? After testing him on multiple teams, I feel like he mainly competes for the support role. Due to his low coefficients, his personal damage is low, and he does not bring any sustain to the team. His vulnerability debuff, however, can increase the team damage by more than 40%, and he can be skill point positive. At E0, he can technically go in any team and bring a damage increase. But at the same time, he doesn't feel like the best option in any team aside from maybe Acheron teams. Here's a comparison of Jiaoqiu along with some of the current popular supports in terms of their buffs and their utility. Currently, Acheron is the only DPS that benefits from all aspects of Jiaoqiu's kit. His debuff application both during his own turn and the enemy turns can accelerate Acheron stacking for her ultimate by quite a bit. No one else really benefits from having multiple instances and would rather you apply the stacks at once. Jiaoqiu can also free up your sustain on the Acheron teams from bringing trend, and the extra ultimate stacking can come in really handy for pure fiction. You can also play Jiaoqiu on dot teams, follow-up teams, and break teams, but he generally feels like a downgrade or side grade from Robin and Reme. His personal damage is pretty weak until E2, and some teams don't benefit much from his extra 15% ultimate vulnerability. One thing I do want to point out though, is that because he actually attacks pretty often, he can really help with weakness breaking fire weak enemies. In terms of polling recommendations, I recommend polling Jiaoqiu if you like him, you prefer horizontal investment and are lacking 5-star supports, or if you want to pull him to increase your Acheron team damage. For players that like having more options and prefer horizontal investment, Jiaoqiu can fill in the gaps of many team comps, and you will especially feel his benefit versus fire weak enemies. For players that prefer vertical investment, Jiaoqiu doesn't feel as great of an investment unless you're going for his light cone and Eidolons. In terms of Jiaoqiu's light cone, the extra 24% extra vulnerability comes out to around a 16% extra team damage increase. It is quite good and can be worth pulling if you want him to buff your team more. The existing light cone options that we have are also decent, but most buff his own damage, which isn't that significant until his E2. Resolution can be a great alternative that can bring an extra 10% damage increase to the team, but your relics will need to roll a lot of effect hit rate. Also, solitary healing can be a great option for pure fiction for the extra energy. You also don't need as much EHR in pure fiction. In terms of his Eidolons, U1 looks pretty juicy, but if you're playing him with Acheron, since she already comes with so much damage bonus, so the 40% bonus damage only comes out to around a 12% true damage increase. Jiaoqiu's E2 makes him quite a strong dot DPS, but it's a pretty big investment and only recommended if you like him. Jiaoqiu's E4 feels kind of lackluster, but his E6 is pretty insane. The extra stacks along with the res pen comes out to around an extra 40% total damage increase for all allies. With E6 Jiaoqiu, you can bring a hot pot to all your battles, and this hot pot burns. Special note on Acheron teams and Jiaoqiu, an E0 Jiaoqiu provides Acheron around a 50% true damage increase, as well as 1 to 2 extra ultimate stacks per turn. Compared to Pela, his damage vulnerability has a much higher uptime, so you don't need to plan your ultimates around the debuffs as much. Jiaoqiu is also fire type, so he will be more useful versus the fire weak enemies. From a horizontal investment perspective, I would prioritize. If you're missing both Sparkle and Jiaoqiu, deciding which one to pull will depend more on who you like more, and whether your account has other hyper carries that can benefit from Sparkle. If you mostly play dot teams, follow-up teams, and break teams, I would prioritize Jiaoqiu higher. From a more vertical investment perspective, I would prioritize. If you already have Acheron Z2, upgrading your Pela to Jiaoqiu will give a 6 to 10% damage increase, and your Acheron will be able to stack her ultimate quicker. Versus fire weak enemies, being able to spam his skill more with Sparkle on the team can also help you quickly weakness break them. In terms of the current 3 endgame modes, Pure Fiction is probably where you'll notice the biggest difference. And then MOC and Apocalyptic Shadow, your experiences might vary based on enemy mechanics and the buffs. To summarize, while Jiaoqiu isn't a top priority pickup, he does add value to your Acheron team, and it can be nice to have another 5-star support as a flex option. To some extent, it does feel like because Acheron was so strong, they were very conservative when designing Jiaoqiu's kit, since he synergizes so well with her. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments if you enjoy these types of character assessment videos. See you on stream or in my next video. Time to eat? Now.